Good morning to you all. We've got some new reporting on what sparked the FBI search for classified documents at Mar-a-Lago 2 weeks ago. Sources telling the New York Times the government has recovered more than 300 documents marked as classified from Donald Trump so far. The first batch, returned in January, included more than 150 classified documents, but there were more. According to the Times, quote, the number ignited intense concern at the Justice Department and helped to trigger the criminal investigation that led FBI agents to swoop into Mar-a-Lago this month, seeking to recover more. A number of people briefed on the matter, telling the Times the former president personally went through 15 boxes before handing them over in January. The paper reports, quote, the highly sensitive nature of some of the material in the boxes prompted archives officials to refer the matter to the Justice Department, which within months had convened a grand jury investigation. The government retrieved a second set of documents from the former president's aides in June, followed by a third set seized in that FBI search 2 weeks ago. According to the Times, the large number of documents and the amount of time they remained at Mar-a-Lago while being sought by the Justice Department, quote, suggested to officials the former president or his aides had been cavalier in handling them, not fully forthcoming with investigators, or both. Sources telling the Times investigators still are seeking more surveillance footage from Mar-a-Lago, a sign that officials still are looking into how the classified material was handled while improperly stored at the former president's estate. According to the Times, the FBI declined to comment. President Trump's spokesman did not immediately respond. Joining us now, NBC News Justice and Intelligence correspondent Ken Dilanian and former U.S. Attorney and senior FBI official Chuck Rosenberg. Good morning to you both. Ken, I'll start with you. NBC News is working to confirm all of this. A blockbuster story dropped last night by the New York Times. The top line, though, the 300 documents, 300 of them taken by Donald Trump, according to the Times reporting out of the Justice Department, is a pretty staggering number when you consider all the excuses that Donald Trump has made that, well, he just slipped some things into his briefcase or they were planted by the FBI. No, it turns out boxes and boxes and boxes in the basement at Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah, it's remarkable, Willie. Also fascinating to me is the fact that Donald Trump's lawyers yesterday, in their lawsuit challenging the warrant and asking for a special master to go through the documents, essentially acknowledged the timeline that led up to the search. Things they didn't have to admit, for example, that the Justice Department served a grand jury subpoena on them back in May, and then also subpoenaed the surveillance tape from Mar-a-Lago. That had been reported elsewhere, but now the Trump side has confirmed it, and it sort of paints this picture of why they took this dramatic step of trying to obtaining this search warrant, which is they asked nicely for the documents and they subpoenaed the documents and then they weren't satisfied. The Trump lawyer also confirms that Jay Bratt, the senior Justice Department attorney in charge of counterintelligence, went down to Mar-a-Lago with 3 FBI counterintelligence agents and met personally with Donald Trump, asked to see the storage room. According to the Trump side, Bratt went to the storage room accompanied by Secret Service agents at Mar-a-Lago, then later asked Trump to put a better lock on the storage room. So clearly a lot of concern about what was happening with those documents. You know, you got to believe there were certain things omitted from this account by the Trump lawyers about exactly what the Justice Department was saying. But it really paints this extraordinary picture of all these efforts by the U.S. government to try to get these classified documents back, which were unsuccessful, which then led up to this dramatic search, which is now being criticized by Donald Trump and his Republican allies as an overreach. But you really see that they tried to do a lot of stuff before they ended up getting this search warrant and swooping in with 24 FBI agents, Willie.
And that's the thing, Chuck. This is just a matter of routine for most outgoing presidential administrations. You hand over your documents to the National Archives. The National Archives, as we've seen and now confirmed by this New York Times reporting, tried to get them the right way, the conventional way, and ultimately did not. They said 2 former White House officials, this according to the Times, told Donald Trump, you got to give this stuff up to the National Archives. He responded by saying, no, they're mine. They, of course, are not. They belong to the United States government. Chuck, what do you make of this new reporting and just the lengths to which Donald Trump and members of his staff went to retain all these documents and keep them in a basement at Mar-a-Lago?
Well, that's right. So, Willie, if you're acting in good faith, if you accidentally took stuff home, right, you would expect that it wouldn't come back in 3 batches and perhaps more. if you made a mistake and someone told you you had classified information in the basement of your house, Willie, you would go right down there, maybe with somebody to help you, and you would diligently go through everything. So why does some stuff come back in January, some more stuff comes back in June, and it still takes an FBI search warrant to get the rest of it, or at least what we think is the rest of it? So there's a couple of factors here. If you're thinking about it as a federal prosecutor, right? How much stuff did he have? How long did he have it? Why did he have it? When someone told him that he had it, what steps did he take to return it? And they don't seem to be all that, diligent in that part of it. And then what was the classification level, Willie? There's different levels of classified information, from confidential to secret to top secret compartmented information. So in addition to knowing now that they returned about 300 documents, what was the classification levels of it? But the thing that continues to concern me, if you're acting in good faith, is what took so long and why is it coming back in batches? And so I don't blame the FBI or the Department of Justice one bit for trying to get this stuff back. It's a problem to have it in your basement.
Yeah, to say the least. And Mike Barnicle, as this Times report this morning points out and really gets at, is that this was a long process. This was not an overnight move, as Donald Trump and others have claimed, that FBI agents showed up at Mar-a-Lago and, kicked down the door and started rummaging through his stuff. No, these were long-standing requests, the conventional way, the routine way to get some of these documents back. And as they trickled in beginning in January of last year, it was taking too long, and they had to go in and with a legal search warrant and get the rest of them.
Willie, as has been reported, and as you just mentioned, one of the keys to this is the mind frame of the potential defendant here, Donald J. Trump, when he said, the documents are mine, they belong to me. And Chuck, in terms of legal jeopardy, what are the pivot points here? What potentially could a former president be charged with, given what he's done?
Well, great question, Mike. So, of course, it would be extraordinary to charge a former president, just as it was extraordinary to execute a search warrant on the home of a former president. But the pivot point, really, for all of these statutes, all of these criminal laws, is intent, right? So not to be too cliched, but what did the president know and when did he know it? Did he understand that he had classified information in the basement? Did he understand that he had to turn it over? Nevertheless, did he retain it willfully or intentionally, despite the requirements of the law? So for all of these cases, Mike, not to sound overly legalistic, it turns on intent. What was in the president's mind? What did he understand? And why did he act the way he acted? And that's always a hard thing to prove, right? It might be easy to prove that he had classified information in his house. That's easy, right? The agents went in there, they saw it, they took it, they got it, they brought it back. That's easy. But the why, right? Why did he act the way he did? What was his intent? Those will always be the pivot points in a criminal case. And it's always, Mike, the hardest thing to prove.